Heyo!
Hey,
How are you doing, Anya?
hey. I'm good. I'm so good. I was
We've
just
made
having a little
technology
dance
work.
as we were getting it on. Yeah, we was just. Z was doing her thing, getting the energy to clear, and I was just sat here having a little dance, waiting for it to come. It was nice.
That's a good time. It's a good time. Well, how are you doing today, Anya? How have things been?
I'm okay. It's been okay. It's been different. I don't know probably the right words for it. It feels new layered, newfound discoveries at the moment. I feel in a deeper stage of the layer of the onion. I feel like I've really gone into a deeper layer, and I felt there was a real calm about the energies for about a week or two before the full moon. It felt like a real place of peace, and like how the
Yep.
energy maybe will be feeling as we shift into that continuously higher frequency in the earth plane. It kind of like a snapshot into what we call new earth energy, into that
Right.
stable grounding energy. I felt like my nervous system was resting. It felt like my relationship was at peace. It felt like everything felt clear and direct. I had a direction, and it didn't feel like the human experience was as overwhelming. Sorry about the dogs. They will stop in a second. I do apologize. But yeah, it didn't feel as overwhelming. It felt nice.
So you had a nice little reprieve then. In between. Nice little dance. All right. How has it been since then? I would say maybe the last week. What does that look like for you?
They're still slightly backing, so if you hear them, I do apologise. But yeah, it's been, I don't know, the past few days towards the build up towards the full moon. As you guys
Mhm.
know, I mention it quite often. I run a Tuesday night group, and that Tuesday night group really gives me specifically as well as the group, a place to reflect on the energies every week. And I really enjoy that session because it allows me to kind of decompress what I'm feeling. And
Mhm.
we were
Yep.
speaking on Tuesday about this kind of vibrational energy of how we had this kind of calm and grounding, and then now it's kind of lifted up into being a little bit more chaotic at the moment. I think the dogs are
Sure.
adding to that, the chaos. They're like, oh damn, hey. Yeah, but it definitely is. It feels a sense of added layers, truth, like you said, that was coming up a big amount. But I feel my nervous system went into a state of overload again over these past couple of days. So I felt a
Okay.
bit
Yep.
dysregulated again. I felt overwhelmed. I felt like, oh, losing that sense of clarity and grounding that I'd experienced for
Sure.
the past week or so. And
Mhm.
obviously that ricochets into other aspects of life. And when other people are feeling that too, they're also feeling that. So it's creating more tension, I would say. Definitely felt more tension over the past couple of days. And more tests that have been brought in place, and
Mm.
kind of being asked to look at things really clearly and see how I navigate that without just doing it and going through it and then reflecting. It feels like I'm given the opportunity to reflect first and then
Uh-huh.
act, which is new for me. It's new for the way I work as well.
Sure, sure. So you're used to going through a process, then reflecting on it and making the shift. And this
Hmm,
is
hmm.
this is the hitting it on the head in opposite in the opposite direction,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And it's weird. I'm kind of, I don't know. It feels that's why I suppose it felt different to me initially as you asked me the question. It felt different, this energy. Like I'm used to working through layers. We've all been doing that a very long time, whether you're consciously aware of it or not. We've all been working through our traumas and our shit basically. If we have been subconsciously choosing to ascend, so
Right,
that's not new. We've all been doing that for a long time. But I suppose what felt different was the opportunity to have a bigger perspective on it
right,
before going into this journey, and like to also recognize where I knew in them moments maybe that I was dysregulated and acting out of dysregulation. And it's hard to put it into human words because obviously I've had that before, but this was like a different level of awareness. This was like
right.
still a choice, and I knew in the moment where I acted out of like dysregulation, I knew I was choosing to do that. And that's kind of a little bit different for me. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, but it felt like I know I'm dysregulated, I know I'm overwhelmed, but I'm still going to choose to act out in this way. So it was like I was being shown my pattern and my program very evidently clear,
Sure.
even though part of my ego felt it was justified. and still probably does, my higher self, my spirit, my overall self knows that that's not how I want to continue moving forward, but
Right.
to struggle to sometimes like articulate that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I really appreciate that, and having it kind of flipped into that format, did you find was it more unknown, challenging? Was it easier? How did you take that?
I suppose it was, what's the right word? I suppose it felt more confrontating because I felt like I was faced with it more. So instead of being able to like kind of act in denial and act out of impulse and emotion and then reflect afterwards and make the change, it was like I was aware that I was in those emotions and I knew that, but I suppose it was the only way I know at this current moment without choosing to change it first. It's the only way I knew and know how to get that specific emotion out and how to like get that point across or how to be heard in that way. And then today I reflected on it and I was like, it's not good to stay in that vibration, but I also seen the value of it too. Like, I'm a big believer. I've always loved the saying of a little bit of love and light and a little bit of go F yourself because I think it's important. I think it's important that we all buy into the love and light bullshit. Like, we can't live in fairyland of you, love and
Yep.
light.
Agreed.
That's
Yep.
very bullshit. I don't agree. I don't think it's true. I think that sometimes we need a little bit of that inner roadman to come out, as I call it. That warrior inside
Totally.
that's like, listen, no, this is how I'm feeling, and I'm gonna speak my boundaries, and I'm gonna tell you how I feel in a
Totally.
way that,
Totally.
maybe it is sometimes a little bit irrational or overwhelming or emotionally charged or whatever label
Totally.
you want to put it. I totally get that, but
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
suppose I gave grace for it yesterday. It was like, I know I'm going to do that. And I was like, and I don't care. And I'm okay with that, and I don't feel guilt or
Right.
shame about the fact that this seems like the easiest, most convenient, most powerful way to get this message out in this time. And I'm pretty sure I could have sat down and spoke about it in a calm way and explained it and explained all the aspects and had empathy for their perspective. But sometimes, as a human, because that's still what we are, it's okay to just say, listen, F that. No, you was in the wrong, and I'm allowed to speak my truth. And if they love and respect you enough, they'll own their shit and you'll work together on changing that pattern. But I think what
Right.
I did learn is you don't need to carry guilt and shame if you're not always in this, love and light, higher consciousness, awakened, ascended mastery mindset. I just don't think that's attainable. you know, I just don't think it's realistic, if I'm honest with you. And I think if we're going to keep it real, a lot of the time I am like that. I'm like, right, okay, how can I look at this from a bigger perspective? How can I forgive and have empathy and
Sure.
understand
Sure.
why they did that and where they're coming from and their perspective? I do that a lot. But then sometimes I think it's okay to just go, no, my feelings, are important,
Right. Totally.
and
Totally.
no, and this is my boundary,
And
my
no.
little yeah, and no, exactly that, and no. And so yeah, that was my revelation, that even though I was more consciously aware of it, I still chose to do it, and I also released any negative feelings about it and seeing the value in the yin to
Sure.
the yang.
Totally.
Some people probably won't agree with that, and some people wouldn't choose to do it in that way. But I suppose my programs and patterns have been. I was raised in a very emotionally charged, a very like vocally outspoken family, and so when I when I learned to express my emotions, it was that way far too much, and I've worked on that over the years. I've worked on my anger and my calming and communication and vulnerability. Like, that is what I've been doing most of the work on. But I actually seen value in it yesterday. I actually seen value in that power, and it not being from a place of I can't be vulnerable, so I'm only doing this because I can't be vulnerable. It was, I could be vulnerable right now, but this is the way I'm choosing to be because this
Sure.
feels more potent to me right now. And so that was new.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Good perspective and take on that.
How does that
I
try to unpick it?
I know. You're like, how do you be true and real to yourself? And I have to admit, I don't buy into the love and light should either.
Yeah.
That's my perspective, everybody. If you like it, that's great.
Yeah.
It's a nice cover up platform or a mask, I feel like, for me, if that's like coming through the space where I'm like, oh my God, just no, I'd have to say over this last week, I've been very much so in like this is real time. I'm like looking at the real time program. No, choosing something else. Real time program. Oh, look, I'm going into the machete phase. I'm gonna kick some shit right now.
I love it. I'm glad
Fuck
it's
up
not
some
just
shit.
me then.
No, 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 no. No, I work that platform like that too. I do get real, and I let everything be exactly how my system wants to work with it. Meaning,
Mhm,
like, I'm
mhm.
not going to live in a fantasy or an illusion of ascension or love and light or like put a higher consciousness piece on it when I'm clearly wanting to kill something for a hot second. Which is
Yeah.
totally okay. I let all my energy go through a process because it's needing to. That's the way that
Yeah.
it wants to work through it. And then I'm like, all right, cool. Well, let's hit some phases here of what would be exciting. And then once that excitement and play comes in, then I'm from the murderous into, oh, that was a fun game. Okay.
Right. And that moment when I come down from that like red cloud and I'm like, oh, it wasn't that bad. Like, why did
Totally.
it feel that bad? You know, like, and I get that knowing of, damn, maybe I overrated a little bit, you know, but it's
Totally.
also
Totally.
like, again, it's validating that. Like, I've had to find the balance deeply because,
Totally.
again, I was raised in quite a emotionally charged family, and I did 100% have anger issues, 1,000,000%. And it was affecting the people around me, including my partner. It was not a great thing. There was a lot of lower vibrational energy from me
Sure.
because I was
Yep.
in pain and I didn't know how to communicate that pain. I was 16, 17. I was in a lot of hospitalization, stomach problems, mental
Sure.
pain, and it was all
Yeah.
manifesting out and I had nowhere to put it. And so I just fucking got angry all the time. And, I laugh at it now because if you don't laugh, you'll cry. And I do have so much empathy for that version of me because I feel like she was so broken and she was in so much pain. And that was her only way she knew of like asking for help and even
Totally. Yep.
communicating that pain. Like, and
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
it got real bad, And I remember I went to hypnotherapy and obviously I got into doing my own healing work for years. And
Sure.
so
Sure.
many things helped with that. But understanding like through my stomach problem, the mind body soul facet became a massive part of my healing. And then
Sure.
obviously that helped go into the anger issues and regulating the nervous system, and working with releasing the inner child was key to
Right.
my anger and my inner teen. Like, man, that girl was angry, so I had to sit with her and like heal a lot. And
Sure.
so now, when I feel that emotion, it doesn't feel like it's coming from all these years worth of backed up
Totally.
pent emotion that's like coming. And so it's not unjustified. That's kind of the emotion I'm
Sure.
feeling. It doesn't feel like an overreaction like it used to, and like an exacerbation of all the other stuff that's going on, and then this as well.
Mhm.
It feels
Mhm.
more like when I react in that way about something, it's because it's genuinely, because it's very rare that I do that now, but it feels genuinely like connected to that specific incident, and like a
Right.
genuine valid emotion for me to be able to express that emotion. So instead of using it as an excuse to get my emotions out like I used to do, I took responsibility and accountability for that, and I owned my shit, and I recognized when I was projecting my anger and my
Right.
pain onto other people. And I worked on that a lot, and so now I suppose then I struggle to ever express that emotion of like anger and uh, sticking up for yourself, advocating for
Right. Right.
yourself,
Right.
because
Right.
it felt like, because I'd done so much of it, I felt like I had to go the other way. And so I'm just now finding this balance because I am a fiery person. I think it's a triple Aries rising moon,
Ah!
whatever the fucking is. I just know I'm all the Aries is. So, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. I'm very fire charged. I feel that fire in my soul. There is no doubt in
Uh-huh.
it. But for a while, I think I was so afraid of it. And afraid of what it could do and what it has done in my previous lifetimes and my this lifetime, how
Right. Right.
all the layers. And now I'm not being afraid of it anymore, and I'm learning to accept it as a part of me in a way that I feel has a right to be there, because it's not a trauma response anymore.
Right. Right. It's
Mm.
kind of like a harmonizing dance now.
Yeah.
right? Like where
Yeah.
you see that piece, you know where it's come from. I have a very broad history of my own traumas and needing to work with through those spaces and seeing it and going, "Hey, we're not at the same spot anymore. I appreciate you. If there's any little inflection, sometimes I cry, sometimes that moves through in a whole different way." And for me now, coming into the space of harmonizing all these parts and pieces and accepting them, it's also now I'm in this place of infinite possibilities. So what am I going to choose? Right?
Mm.
What would I like to
Yeah.
choose? What would feel good to choose? And sometimes that is like getting real deep in there and being like, no, I'm gonna walk this path and we're gonna see where that goes. And I'm done. Next choice.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like, how do I
Just like
want to
open
feel
the
about
door a
it?
little bit.
Exactly. Peekaboo, and then you shut it. It's like, what kind
Mhm.
of game do you want to play? How do you want to be in your reality? What does that look like? And for me, being super real is like really immersing myself in the fact that sometimes I do want to take it deep. Sometimes I do want to have a machete. Sometimes I do want to be like a rainbow queen. Sometimes I just want to step back in my human perspective and just be for a hot second. I just like I'm here in this
Mhm.
reality to experience, and it's totally okay whatever is coming through the space and owning that. And that's another piece. Like I'm going to own how I'm feeling in every
Yep.
given moment. Over this last week, it's been such a visceral, oh, that's where I'm at with that. Good to know.
Mhm. Yeah.
Good to know
Yeah, I
that,
get
like,
that.
I've had these patterns pop up and be like, well, what am I going to choose? And it feels like they're repeats. It feels like they've been up in the my periphery before, and I've chosen whatever I've chosen. And this time, I'm like, so you're in the periphery. What do you want to choose? And do you want to? Nope, nope. Don't want to. I really don't want to. I've already played that game like a bunch of times, so
Yep.
I'm gonna entirely disconnect from whatever that is, and that's where I've been just disconnecting. I'm not attached to that piece. I'm gonna let it go entirely, because there's space
Mhm.
coming in to create something else here. And how much of those parts and pieces and people groups do I want in my field while there's something new coming in?
Right, right. Very valid. Very valid. And also very brave because it takes a lot
Yep.
to consciously do that. I have had a lot of death trauma and a lot of grief trauma
Yep.
around me. And so finalization, cutting things off, like ending it's a real issue
Oof,
for me. I struggle with that.
it's a
And
big one.
I'm always the last one to cut it off. Usually the universe does it for me because I'm like, I'll just keep hoping out, keep putting out the hope. And it never comes. And so the universe usually severs the cord for me. But lately, like you say, I've
Yeah.
been forced to recognize where I need to recognize that too. I also need to be the one that even when I've been recognizing it, then the universe does its thing, and that's okay for now. But at least I came to the sense of knowing that that was not aligned for me, knowing that that was not in my truth, and like being so aware of my body and how my body feels around them people, and like the heightened anxiety and the heightened tension, and me just
Right.
dismissing that before as like something I was feeling, rather than because now I'm out of that space, and then when I'm reintroduced to it, it's like, wow, it's so confronting, if that's the right word, how much that energy affects my field, and
Sure.
how unaware
Yep.
I actually was of that interference.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
I would have to totally circle that and put that into a resonance with everybody listening to this and looking at their own dynamic of how even the tiniest thing, whether that's a person, whether that's a belonging, whether that's, a group, whatever it might be, how it affects your resonance system, how it affects your overall
Mhm.
frequency. And I found even the silliest of things, if I'm like holding even on to an email that's been there for a
Yeah.
long time, realizing, wow, that took up a lot of space in my
Yeah,
field.
yeah. It's so
And
true. So true.
yep,
Sorry,
yep.
didn't mean to cut you off.
No, 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 you're good. I would have to say too, like in the yester me, the past me would have had a more of a harder time cutting that off myself. And I would have
Mhm.
just kind of waited until the resonance shifted it for me. And now lately I'm like, I just not gonna do that anymore. I'm
Right.
gonna be real direct. Like this is not where I'm going. This is not where I need to be. My alignment isn't here right now, guys. I love and appreciate you. Like, and really cut those off and get all the things out of the spaces that I need, get all the things cleared out so that I can have this room that I never thought I could have. It's that resonance of bigger me coming into the space, and I'm creating the space for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really craving that at the moment. I'm definitely like a couple of steps behind. I feel You know, when you feel like the need to declutter your house, it feels like the
Yeah.
need to
Yep.
declutter my whole life. You know, like
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
everything needs to go out for a garage sale or whatever we call it, because it just feels like I am at capacity right now with all the old things, all the new things, all the
Sure.
potentials, all the multiple possibilities, timelines, all of it. It just feels like
Sure. Yep.
everything's coexisting in one. And yeah, it's not great. And I do recognize that I do actually need a physical, bigger space, a bigger home to allow that energy in my own home to feel
Sure.
more like flowing. So
Yeah.
that's definitely
Yep.
a big factor. Then you feel like you've got too much stuff. But when you have two children, two adults, three dogs, and four cats in a small house, you know, it's
Yep.
not good.
Yep.
You know, you definitely feel very, and it's not even a case of like what can I get rid of, because a lot of the stuff is necessary, probably other than my clothes addiction, which I love. But it's more the sense of the space. There's no space for new, and that's I'm really feeling that right now. I'm really feeling
Yep.
that like it's at full capacity, and I don't want to be at full capacity. I want to be open for new and
Sure.
growth, and you know, this new expanded version. So I'm really being forced to look at like, where do I need to get rid of stuff, you know,
Yep.
internally,
Yep.
emotionally, programs wise, the patterns and programs that are running, but also, yes, in my physical space, the people I'm
Okay.
around, the people I'm giving my energy to, the belongings I own, the clothes that I'm wearing, everything. I feel like we're really being back in that kind of wall of mirrors, hall of mirrors, to look
Sure.
at the reflections and look at, do we actually need that? Like, you know, is this necessary?
Yep.
Yes, a lot of the things we like, and there's no reason we can't have luxurious, nice things, but it's questioning the value you hold to it in your life. You know?
Right. Right. Yeah. And I would have to say for me and my perspective, each one of those things that I just was like, no, I've got to detach from that was held onto a construct that I didn't need anymore, for me to open up the space for that. And it took me, I've probably been in this process now for like 5 months of really just decluttering and shifting and getting out of stuff that I don't need anymore. But I notice even on a daily basis, if I'm like, how can I open myself up to more space today? What does that look like for me? My body will be like, okay, we don't need this aspect of clothing. Let's delete this stuff from your computer. And I notice each one of those pieces is like what it carried in my system. I'm like, wow, that was glad that's leaving.
Yeah,
'Cause,
yeah. No, I
you
feel that.
know,
I really feel that deeply. It's like right now I'm in the more overload. So I'm like, I see the computer overloading. I see that room needing decluttering. I see all these little things that need doing, and like everything needs kind of organizing and taking charge of. But I am struggling to kind of find the capacity at the time in the human experience to have that priority to like take control of my own life or take accountability for it, because when you have two little tiny humans, especially like a 3 month, you know, newborn 3 month old, it feels like it's so consuming, and I know it's not going to last, but like that overwhelming need to do these things to
right.
get bigger and like more expansive, but then not feeling physically able can feel so frustrating, and it creates this feeling of
Sure.
like being stuck and
Stuck.
being
Yep.
yeah, not able to like move forward and get where I need to be. And I'm sure a lot of other people may feel that. Like my friend had to go back to a 9 to 5 job after like trying to do their own independent business thing for a year or so, and I could feel the defeat in them. And I recognized, I reflected back to him that this is just a stepping stone. This is just a necessary stepping stone to the
Right.
next chapter. Like this is not a
Sure.
backward step, you know, but it
Right.
can leave you feeling stuck. It can leave you feeling
Totally.
like you've got no, where's the next step? How am I getting out of this situation? And I've
Right.
definitely been feeling like that, you know, in where, what do I do first? How do I start? Like, you know, I have this limited time and energy,
Sure.
and usually that's going on just surviving right now. And so it is that challenging. And I just wanted to connect with anybody else that might be experiencing that too, because like we
Totally.
mentioned, we keep it real, you know. I am not in a position right now to do the same work as I used to be able to do physically,
Sure.
mentally, spiritually a couple of years ago. And I do notice that, and it does affect me sometimes. And I guess I have so much more empathy and understanding now for people like that I used to work with before. And I think, well, you know, you can always make time, and you can. I'm not saying you can't, you can
Sure.
integrate it into your washing up and, you know, walking with the kids, but you do lose that sense of like choice, you know, freedom to choose. As we were just saying earlier, my ceremonies used to be impromptu and right, I need a ceremony today. Now it's like, okay, I'll schedule it for 2 weeks away. So I know that I have that free time and, child free, responsible time to be able to just journey in myself, meditate, journal, whatever that is. And everything looks different now. And I suppose it's been okay with that too. It's been okay with wherever you're at in the journey, and as long as you have that recognition of, I want to move forward, I have this intention, I know that this
Totally.
is coming, this expansion is waiting for
Yep.
me, then it's not going to go anywhere. And I have to tell myself this too, like, it's not going to go anywhere, you're not going to lose it just because you can't do it this second. Like, it's
Right.
okay,
Totally.
just sit in it and sit
It's
with
so
where you're at,
yeah. Yeah, I would have to say that's a big golden nugget is being able to sit exactly with where you're at, accept where you're at, and start to surrender to where you're at so that you give yourself some time and space to see what might be the next step there, you know?
Mhm.
I'd have to say over the last little while, it's been a deep surrender for me because I have like, I don't know. I'm in that space of like I'm getting this cleared out and I'm going to be in the unknown of it, but it's been a constant step in surrender. Like, oh, look, shit, that doesn't belong here anymore.
Messed it around today, messed it up
Damn,
the other day.
that came back and smacked me in the face. Hello.
Mhm, mhm,
So
mhm.
it's just walking in these parameters of your own truth and giving yourself permission to speak it or be direct about it, because I've been just really direct. My body's been really direct on what yes, it's yeses and it's nos, what it will do, what it won't do, um, how it wants to do things. And that's just been me slowing the fuck down to
Yeah.
listen to that.
No, and I get that. I really hear that. I think it's so important. And I suppose question I have for you, for me, for everyone is, it does get frustrating, right? Like
Yeah,
I get really pissed
totally.
off with it. And sometimes I'm like, damn, we're here again. I'm feeling this. And even today, feeling such emotions. And it gets to the point now where I was really good at fucking hiding it before. I'm like, I knew it was there, but I'd be like, not gonna look at you. I'm just
Yep.
gonna do my, and even I think I use spirituality as like an excuse. I'd be like, oh yeah, I'll just go journal and dance back. But I was fucking totally bypassing the actual emotion
Right.
itself by
Right.
doing these things, like
Things.
these
Things. Yep.
releasing things or crystal things or whatever the fuck, but it was not, I was not even listening to myself at all. It was simply an act, what I should do, what I was supposed to do rather than what I
There's that
needed to
right there.
want, you know.
Yep.
And
Yep.
yeah, today I was sat there in the kitchen floor, and I don't know, I was sat on the floor. I think I just needed a minute to sit down, and I just was sat there like, it felt shit. The feeling I was feeling, it was overwhelming. It was emotional. I felt sad, and grief was a big theme today. But then, in the same respect, I had like joy that I was allowing myself to just do that, to not to
Totally.
not to not excuse it, to not pretend I was doing something else and then let it out 2 weeks later when this
Right.
happens.
Right.
Like, to
Right.
not bypass it anymore, because
That's
sometimes
huge.
it wasn't a choice to bypass it. Like, oh, I'm going to bypass this emotion right now. Like, it was too painful to look at. It was too
Right. Right.
painful to sit with and then just go on with my day like a normal human being. Like, I
Totally.
could not do that before. I found it too emotionally draining, too overwhelming, too challenging, too sensory overloading to do that. And so the best way was for me to like trickle it. So I'd get like little bits and little bits
Sure.
and little bits, and then after like
Right.
a couple of weeks, I'd get the expansion that I needed, the layer shed, whatever you want to call it, the release, the expansion. And now today I was like smacked in the face with this emotion. And instead of going into, like we're saying, the anger patterns, instead of going into bypassing it with spirituality in the love and light agenda that I did, instead of ignoring it and trying to find neutrality, because again, that's bullshit. Neutrality is not what we're here to do. We're not neutral. We're emotional beings. That's what we're meant to be. And I sat with it, and I sat in that emotion. I cried with it. I got a bit angry with it. And then I just got to that place of peace. Like, thank you for allowing yourself to sit with that. And I didn't quite know what to do with it. Like, what's the next step?
Mhm.
What, because I'm a fixer. I'm like, okay, how do we fix this? What's the next step? But today I was like, I don't know. I don't know what it is right now. I don't know what the next step is, and that's okay too. Like, the next step is to not know. It's
Sure.
to just
Yep.
let it be, and to just
Let it be. Just be with
feel it
it. Yep.
today and then
Yep.
face it tomorrow, you know?
Right. Or whenever it comes up. I think you
Yeah.
hit a really, really big golden nugget there when you're talking about the shoulds and the needs. And I'd have to say this has been a huge like let's unravel what I'm distracting myself with. You know, those
Mhm.
cute little parameters that come around, you're like, "Oh, yeah, like, is it spiritual bypassing?
Right.
Is
Mhm.
is it like, what am I actually bypassing?" And I think for me, that truth has been huge. I've had to really see what my distractions have been, and I create some fun games for myself to distract myself, so it's been pretty funny.
Yeah, yeah.
Whether
Me
that's
too.
like, it's we do that. We're that's the human nature too. I feel like that comes into, like, we like to distract ourselves. I found too over this last little while that my boredom is my one of my distraction phases when I'm like, I'm just really bored. And it was tied to the fact that I wanted to stay bored because that was obviously more fascinating than bringing more of me into the space.
Okay, that's interesting.
It
Do
was
you feel like some of
interesting.
it could have been like fear based of like, well, if I stay in this boredom, at least I know what it is, rather than the
Totally.
unexpected of like what's to come.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
absolutely. Yeah, it was
Right.
really tied into, and so anytime I heard that, I stopped myself and be like, "Okay, what am I actually distracting myself from seeing right now or feeling in this boredom phase?" And then I
Interesting.
would be like, "Oh, it's the fact that this aspect of myself, like my big," and I always say my big me, all of me, is coming more into the space for me to create with. And this piece of me wants to either sabotage it or hold down the fact that what I'm really facing here is, like, I'm scared shitless of what that is coming into the space. It looks really big. I don't know, you know, from a love and light like spectra, it could have been like, oh my God, there's just more, you know. I'm like, no, like, that's really not it. I'm telling you right now that there's some big shit coming into
Yeah,
space right now, and I
it's
don't know
some
if I'm ready for
scary
it.
shit. Oh, I've had that too so many times. It is scary though. I'm glad you said that because I feel like that sometimes, and I'm like, yo, I don't know if I'm ready for that. And it's the for me,
Yep,
it's the fear of being seen. Like that's been a huge one over my life. It's like the fear of being seen as, I don't know, all of it, powerful over expansive, like, and also allowing myself to get to that potential, the fear of being
right.
judged, the fear of the consequences,
Totally.
blah blah blah, blah,
Yep.
the
Yep.
witch wound and the persecution that we've had in this lifetime and many others, and we could go on and on and on, but
Right.
that's been a huge thing. Even now, like, I always reflect on the fact that, I'm a musician, I'm a singer. There could have been many pathways I could have gone down over the
Sure.
years. And yet something always was like, no, and it just feels like a shrinking, like some of it I feel was necessary as a protection thing. And again, I think that's tied to the fear of being seen too. It's a protection thing. Like, can I protect
Totally.
myself if I'm seen at the full capacity? I get that as well. But
Sure.
like now, it's almost like I'm so used to not allowing myself to be seen. Like, is it
Mhm.
even, do I need to be doing that anymore? Or, and it's really questioning that. That's what I've been doing over the past year or two, is question like, why do I not let myself be seen in my fullest capacity in the areas of my life that I know that I'm passionate and connected to? And so I've really been aiming to work on being open to receiving that and being open to receiving
Right.
the
Right.
ability to let myself be seen in its fullest capacity. And it's definitely an uncomfortable one, and it's one I have to navigate the layers to, but it feels quite liberating when you do. And I've had some reflections lately. My little nana passed away last year, and my aunt has been reflecting a lot about what she used to say about me and stuff, and it really made me laugh because she always used to question everything I did, and I always used to feel a little bit judged. And
Yeah.
yet, the reflection of that, on the other hand, was she actually loved the courage and the bravery to just do whatever I wanted to do, and she admired it. But it was a sense of her inner self that wouldn't let her do that, projected that little bit of fear onto me. And it was really beautiful to see her recognize her own strength and bravery in me, but also that fear of being seen in that projection of staying small, where that also is connected to as well. And it was a really
Right.
beautiful reflection that I
That's
gained from
lovely.
that. Yeah, it was nice.
Oh, I like that. I like, at least from my perspective now, it's being so in tune to what my internal system is telling me through these visceral experiences, whether I'm around people or I'm outside, and how
Mm.
it can be an actual smooth, freeing, sovereign aspect to it versus like I have to go into my shit and be there. Like, it's
Yeah,
like it's a
yeah.
lovely dance. I would have to say, for me, if I've allowed myself to do that and see all these perspectives, then the connection points make their links. And I'm like, oh, well, look at that. That's, That's really
hmm
cool because it definitely wasn't like that before, right? With all
No,
of that,
yeah,
all of the constructs in there, all the prosecution, all the unworthy pieces, all these pieces that were like flagging these layers. Now those are
hmm
having the ability to shed themselves, and it's like, okay, how would I want this to look? How do I want to work through
yeah.
things now? That's not like that.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree. Yeah, and I think it's also just having clarity. There's no right or wrong way, as long as you're
Right.
not doing anything with the negative intention, as we've mentioned many times. That also brings me to the full moon, like many people have different opinions on the moon, and
Sure.
again, that's super cool. It's the same thing with God and religion, and
Hmm.
everything's open to our own interpretation. Who actually knows what the earth plane is, if it's even real, if we're in a dimensional plane,
Totally.
if there's loads of layers of cake of
Sure.
dimension. We None of us are actually going to ever tangibly physically know the answer in this lifetime, are we? So
Totally.
the point is, it's just about finding your truth. I kind of not deep it as
There it
much. I
is.
just trust that
Yep.
I know what's going to come, and I know the vibrational energy of what I see, and I go with that. And
Sure.
I suppose the moon for me, of course, it can be used for negative intention. Of course, it could be used for ritualistic ceremonies. Of course,
Totally.
it could be
Hmm.
used for negative shit, like so could Halloween, so could any energy harvesting time. And
Totally.
that's the thing. I definitely think that for a long time, the moon was manipulated and used in negative intentional ways. And like anything can be, and it still is. But once you get to a certain level of conscious awareness within your own self, everything is energy, everything is matter and energy and frequency. And the moon in itself, regardless of its physical, tangible form, has an
Yep.
energetic frequency.
Hmm.
And every month, whether it's artificial or not, there is a heightened energy around that frequency. And at the beginning of that month, there is a fresher, like new seed planting energy. And always as a teenager, I used to get so emotional and angry around the full moon and had no idea that it was a full moon and why I felt that way. And even now, because I don't like follow the cycles, I'll start to feel really funny. I'm like, why am I feeling like this? And I'll see something on Instagram, TikTok, like full moon, and I'm like, oh shit, that's fucking white, because it's
Right.
these
Right.
heightened
Yeah.
energies that are going on as a collective. We're all feeling these peaks, these lows, these amplifications, these challenges, test
Sure.
layers, and so for me, it makes sense that there is 28-day cycle, like the feminine cycle of the womb, that then sheds the lining. The womb cycle sheds each month the lining of the womb to make way for the new, to make way for new birth, rebirth, life. And I feel my personal interpretation of the moon is a very similar thing. When it starts with the new moon, it's the shedding, and it's over that time, it builds up until the end of the full moon, which is then the big
Hmm.
release. And that's the
Right.
releasing of all the tension, the fear, the energies. If
Hmm.
you learn
Hmm.
how to communicate with yourself, with your
Right.
intentions, and with that energy's frequency, it can be a very powerful healing tool. If you're not necessarily in tune, and if other people of higher forces are using it for mass energy infiltration on a lower frequency, and you're not protecting yourself against that, or you're not aware of that, then of course that could potentially impact you in a negative way. I do believe
Sure.
that full moons have been used for both positive and negative things for eons. And so it's all about finding your
Yours. That's it.
interpretation and your intention behind it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. And I appreciate your truth in it. And
hmm
that's all we're getting to the point in here, guys, is the only thing that matters is how you feel about your own truth, how you feel strong in your own body, what makes you feel like you're in alignment for yourself, how you can walk forward, how you interpret your reality, how it feels in your body. And, for me, my system, I very much so trust what it feels like. And that's different every month, even if in a perspective of the moon. Sometimes it follows it, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it doesn't like that perspective and it wants a different perspective to it. So
Yeah,
that's why I say to you guys, like, question yourself, dive in a little bit deep. If we're looking at the moon, what does the moon cycle actually mean to you? Does it mean anything to you? Because if either
yeah,
way is fine. There's no right or wrong in this. And I'm going to
yeah.
circle that big. There's literally no right or wrong to how you want to
Never.
perceive your world,
hmm
and like you said, I feel like there has been those parameters where like there's been negative intent, there's been positive intent, and in the end, there's still no right or wrong in that. So what does that look like to you? Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, I would say even with negative intent, my system, I mean, falls into if it's in a lower vibrational frequency, my system is going to immediately be like, yeah, that's not a good space for me to be in.
yeah.
Right? It's going to
Me
kick it
too.
out
Yeah.
entirely. I'm not saying that's
Mhm.
right or wrong. It's just not for me. you know?
Mhm, mhm.
And even some of these
100%.
high intentional spaces where people are, like, putting intent into the moon and stuff like that, and it, like, is meant to be positive or how they're intending it to be, that might not feel
Mhm.
good to me either. You know, my sisters might be like, "Yeah, that's not, the alignment for me, so what I'm gonna do is maybe I'll sit with the moon and have a chat with it. Let's partner up there and see how this is feeling in my body right now, what my truth is with that." I did a lot of that over the
100%.
last couple of weeks with the moon, because I was in ceremonies, and it's just a lovely conversation of seeing myself in the space and being like, "Hey, look, man, you're pretty cool, moon."
Yeah, yeah,
And
right. And I
you know,
get that. I feel like I've had to kind of defend it over the years because, like anything, of course it can be negative, like we've said, of course it can be, but
sure,
sometimes I just feel such a connection to the pure raw frequency of the moon's energy. And sometimes when I'm
that's
sat
it.
outside at night, and it's just
Yep.
illuminating down, and especially when I'm camping and it's in the middle of the night and it's just like beaming down on us. There's a beautiful song. It's called Falling. I think it's Falling in Love with the Moon. And it's just it really encapsulates how I feel about the moon. I really
I
love the
love
moon,
that.
and I think I think again, I don't really massively follow it, and I say really love it, but I don't sit there knowing the times and dates. I don't really do that. I just go with my own energy. And on Tuesday on my session, I didn't really have anything coming up, and then I was driving up to my dad's, this is where I work, and I was driving, and as I was driving, I seen the moon, and it was beaming, and I was like, oh, okay, that's what I'm meant to do tonight, And then I channeled in,
Yeah,
and it was a flower moon, and it was all about blooming, receiving, expanding, releasing, and like how we can grow into
right,
its fullest potential, and how we can release it, and literally everything we just spoke about. And so it confirmed again as a deeply as a hundredth time how what I'm doing independently is also syncing up to then the collective energy of the
sure.
moon, and a lot of the time mine does sync up. But again, if yours doesn't, I worked with people in this industry that really don't connect with the moon at all and never have done and don't resonate with it.
Sure.
And we never had an issue working together in that way. It would just be different interpretations and different perspectives. And so, yeah, I just wanted to add that in there with it being a full moon the other day. And it feels like quite a powerful moon at this time. It's a
Mhm.
big illumination moon. And it reminds me of when I get judged because I trigger people unintentionally, just from my presence a lot of the time. It feels like the moon is like that, she's a triggerer, she's a releaser, she's there to help you heal in all of the ways. And so
Mhm.
I feel like
Mhm.
when you use it with the right intentional energy, obviously, and I feel like a lot of people get confronted, whatever the word is, with that energy when they're not aware consciously of why this is happening and what's going on and how to deal with that and how to release that and how to work with it. I feel that that's why it can be a very overwhelming thing, and
Yep.
that's why people used to go loony on a full moon, like because of the heightened energy. And that's where the term lunatic came from, because of the full moon. It
Lunar.
would send them,
Yep.
yeah, lunar, and it was associated with the lunar cycle. And I was like, oh, of course it makes sense now I heard it. But yeah, it's had a profound effect on the collective energy for a long time. And I think it's just about figuring out your intention and your interpretation of it and whether you want to work with it or not. And if you do, there's many things you can do, like releasing, full moon little ceremonies, like candles and journaling and burning paper under the full moon and planting things in soil and putting things water and putting things under the full moon and drinking it. Like there's so many things you can do to connect with that energy in a really beautiful way to heal. And you can also just totally ignore it as well. Like you said, there's no right
Yeah,
or wrong answer.
totally. There's no right or wrong. It's entirely up to you what you want to tap into and what you don't want to. And that's what creating
Mm-hmm.
your reality is all about. Like, what do you choose in there with their infinite possibilities? How does your imagination play into it? Where that imagination is also kind of creating these realities and how you want to make a choice in that. And there's no right or wrong to that. And also bringing that back into your physical body to bring it into reality and not paste a picture
Yeah.
over it that is not your physical reality of what you're perceiving from your body as well. So it's kind of like a
Yeah.
combination of all those in a dance. How you
Yeah.
want to
I love
really work
that.
with that. Do do
Yeah.
do do
I love
do.
that. I was like, oh yeah, let's do
Let's go.
it.
Let's go.
Yeah. I would like to do a little 2 minute exercise around this, if that's
Absolutely.
okay. Something just came in. I
Please.
was like, oh yeah, that is like a really beautiful way to summarize this energies of today.
Yes.
So if we all just want to like get comfortable, allow your body to just like relax. If you need to just have a wiggle off and shake off any energies that are lingering, just do that before you get into your vibrational frequency. And I want you to just center into your breath, really focus in on the breath, and start to find the colors that are coming up in your auric field as you are breathing in the oxygen, holding it in your beautiful vessel, cherishing that air, filling up your lungs, and releasing it back out into Mother Earth. And just allowing yourself to focus on the expansion of your lungs and your body as you open up your third eye and allow yourself to be grounded, protected, circled by the blue flame of source, and rooted into the earth with the roots out of your feet. As you allow your astral self to float up higher and higher to a higher realms, ignoring any of the noise around us as part of this experience. So as you find yourself going up and up to a higher realm, you may see a doorway. And as you open that doorway, there's a meadow full of beautiful flowers with the most exquisite colours. As you let yourself run wild and free in this field, I want you to notice how your spirit feels in this energy, untamed, unrestricted, unfiltered by the human experience. And I would like you to ask yourself how you can bloom this month, how you can allow yourself to bloom internally and externally, and what things you may need to be getting rid of, what patterns, programs, people, emotions, thoughts, anything that you may need to release to create room for that new growth to bloom within you. And don't worry if you don't get an instant answer. It may just come over the next few days. But just allow yourself to be open to receiving this guidance from your higher self. And I would also like you to pick a flower from this meadow and really observe what the colours are, what type of flower it is, what the petals are like, how big it is in your hand. And I want you to ask what this flower means for you. And I want you to take a picture of the flower in your mind and bring it back with you so you can connect that back with your human experience. And when you're ready, I want you to observe this meadow and notice you can be as free and as beautiful as you feel here within your human experience too. So when you're ready, I'd like you to make your way back to your doorway that you came from and allow yourself to float back down the stairwell. Again, focusing back on the breath and going back into the doorway at the bottom, which brings us into our room, around our body. And we're going to thank ourselves for this journey and allow ourselves to expand as we step back into our human body. Releasing anything that we needed to let go from the mind, body, spirit, and soul. Integrating back in with breath. And just allowing yourselves to wiggle the fingers and wiggle the toes. And when you're ready, just opening your eyes and returning back into a place of grounding and centering back into your human experience. And you may need a drink of water or fluid to regenerate that human.
Exactly. Drink of water, go outside for a second. Maybe there's some just a few integration pathways. So very much so listen to yourself. That was very beautiful. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Yep. Thank you everybody for watching this. I'm excited to see where what this might spark for you in your own truth. And again, like please question.
Yes,
Please see
yes.
how the things are feeling to you and bring up all the good stuff of how you might move best forward in yourself.
Yeah, I love that. Awesome. Thank you so much, Lee. I've really enjoyed this
Thank
today,
you.
and I absolutely love our chats.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
me too. More to come. Dun, dun,
More
dun.
to come, guys. Take care.